Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us for the third and final part of our automation webinar series with Dave Taylor. Today we have some guests. We do on the slide there have Thomas, but he has not joined us yet. He should be along in a minute. He is with Source.ag. My name is Tara Wilford. I handle marketing at Prospient, and I'm really pleased to see such a diverse group of people for this final webinar. So with that, I'm going to hand it over and mute myself because there seems to be an echo, and hand it over to Dave to do some introductions.
Great. Thank you very much, Tara. I really appreciate it. Yeah, so as Tara mentioned, this is our third and final in this series of automation. Today we've got some guests. We have three guests. First off is Chris Androni from Priva. Chris, if you want to introduce yourself.
Yeah, my name is Chris Androni. I'm a system analyst at Priva. I've been with Priva for about 13 years now. I got my start here as a student doing an internship, building panels in the panel shop. And then right after I finished that, I got hired on full-time as a system analyst. And I've been with Priva ever since. So my role with Priva is mainly I travel North America mostly and commission new systems, do a lot of training, and then maintaining old systems as well. So it's gets me around, but I really enjoy it.
Great. Thanks, Chris. Really happy that you're here today. Thanks so much. Our next guest is Thomas Gertz. Thomas, if you want to introduce yourself, please.
Absolutely. My name is Thomas Gertz. I'm the general manager for North America at Source.ag. I'm based out of Chicago and have been with the company for about 4 years. Used to be based out of the Netherlands, part of the team that founded the company and moved to North America about 1.5 years ago to set up our business here and ended up hiring a local team here, Canadians, Americans, Mexicans, and now working with a lot of North American growers as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And last but not least, and probably our most important guest today is Emilio Mastronardi. Emilio is a grower here in Kingsville, Ontario. And Emilio, if you just want to give yourself a quick preamble here.
Hey guys, my name is Emilio. I'm a third generation grower. We grow tomatoes in a Venlos style greenhouse system here. Dave asked me today to kind of talk about some AI systems we use in our greenhouse facility, and I'll take it from there later on.
Great. Well, thanks very much, Emilio. Can't wait to hear more about it. All right. So today we're going to be talking about what a high-tech greenhouse is, and I'll just give a quick introduction to that, and then we'll define full automation, integration with the greenhouse structure. Then what we'll do is we'll get into our vendor insights and end off with our grower insights and a Q&A for everybody. So just to talk about it really quickly, a high-tech greenhouse is going to be a fully integrated greenhouse. Typically we see these more in Venlos style greenhouses or high-tech style where we have hot water heating, we have multiple screens throughout the facility, we have heat power plants, maybe even just multiple boilers heating up a system in a greenhouse. That's sort of what we're talking about when we talk about full automation. And I mean, when we talk about that, well, we'll get into it a little bit more with our guest today. But what I'll do is I'll let Chris start off, kind of talk about what Priva does inside the greenhouse, and we'll go from there.
Awesome.
Take it away, Chris.
Thanks, Dave. Dave definitely gave a good introduction on it, and kind of, yeah, the main idea of things today is if you look back kind of 40, 50 years ago, we've come a long way. A lot of technologies, all technologies come a long way, and definitely greenhouse technology is no exception. So if you take a look at a typical greenhouse installation now, instead of back in the day when we had just kind of simple heating, cooling setups, maybe some fans in there, greenhouse installations are becoming much more advanced. So if you look at the graphic here, we have fertilizer dosing, water disinfection. We're looking at different types of climate, outside weather, inside weather. We have microclimates around the plants. We're looking at our energy centers. what kind of production we're getting, what kind of costs we're using on labor. So we have all of those different aspects of a greenhouse installation. When they're combined together, it creates definitely kind of a complex installation. And then if we move on to the next slide, if we look at an installation like this, nowadays that single installation is becoming a single phase in a group of multiple phases within a greenhouse installation. Typically with those different phases, if we were to call each of these different aspects, you can see there as phases. Most of them are controlled by a central heat management system, CO2 management system, and electricity management system. So lots and lots of aspects of a greenhouse installation or a greenhouse organization working together. And then if we go to the next slide as well, number one important thing with that is integration. And Dave kind of mentioned that. So to single phase, we have different aspects. So we have our weather, energy, climate, labor, lighting, water. And of course, with all of those installation aspects, we have lots of data that's coming out of that. The reason that integration is key is if you take any single aspect of this greenhouse installation, it needs to know what the other aspects of that greenhouse installation are doing. So example, if we're looking at water, we need to know what's happening inside with the climate. We need to know what's happening outside. We need to know what's happening with the sun. If it's cold outside, the energy system needs to know what the weather is doing because maybe we're going to have a heavy load on our energy management system. We need to prepare for that. We need to fill our buffer tank to an appropriate level that keep us through the night to make sure we have enough heat. And then, of course, like I said, all of that information that we're taking in, we have sensors, different types of sensors all around. We have our weather sensors, our climate sensors. We want to take that data and make sure it's readily available to us. Then if we go to the next slide again, another way we can bring all of that information together and integrate it all together is we can connect that to the cloud and make everything cloud available. So in this graphic here, you can see along the bottom all of our sensoring, irrigation and fertilizer dosing, water disinfection, labor registration, and so on. We connect that information and make it available to third-party companies in the cloud, and it kind of bridges that gap. So we have it with our tech partners, with our knowledge partners, whether it's a consultant, a tech partner like Source, all of that information is readily available. You can also think of it on a company-wide level too. If you're kind of a larger organization, you have different locations around maybe the world even. Once that information is available in the cloud, you can use that as a collaboration tool. So you have consultants, you have managers, you have growers, all of that information is readily available to them from the cloud. And then you're able to do whatever you need to do with that information. So that's another way of integrating kind of on the data level of the installation. Next slide. So I kind of mentioned too, around the greenhouse installation, data is super important. We want to make sure that we're collecting that data properly. And the main way we do that is with high-tech sensors. So advanced technology in a greenhouse, we want to make sure we have accurate sensors. We want to make sure that, kind of the lifeline of our installation, what our plants are feeling, we want to make sure that it's as accurate as possible. So here's a few examples of what we offer. Our Priva measuring box SPE. It's our new style measuring box. It reads temperature and humidity and CO2. Kind of the heartbeat of the system. We want to know what's happening inside our greenhouse installation. We have our Priva WSP21 weather station. Comes standard with temperature, humidity, wind speed, wind direction, a sunlight measurement, and then optional irradiation and PAR. So we can utilize that information. I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. We can utilize that information to make sure our installation's operating as efficiently as possible. We also have our AirNet wireless sensor integration. So we have a line of wireless sensors that we offer from AirNet. And the benefit of having that is, if you look at something like a wired sensor, maybe you want to get measurements around different locations, whether that's temperature, whether that's a PAR measurement. You can even look at moisture in a slab. We offer some wireless sensors so that you can move them around. It adds another layer of flexibility within your installation. And then our Priva power sensor. If you're growing a light sensitive crop, you want to know exactly what kind of light levels the crop is getting. You can utilize a power sensor inside, outside the installation to see exactly what the plants are getting. Number one, yeah, like I said, accurate sensors. You want to maintain these sensors properly. And then that ensures that we're getting exactly the right measurements that we need to tell us what's happening with our crop. And next slide. We can take it one step further as well with our Priva irrigation management system. And that connects us to the plants. And it tells us exactly water-wise what the plant's needing, what kind of phase it's in, how much we need to water. And we're analyzing that real time from one integrated system. Then if we go to the next slide, there's an example of how that works. So we have our load cells highlighted in red there. What those are going to do is it's going to measure the weight of the slab, which is going to tell us the water content in the slab. So as we irrigate, the slabs are going to get heavier. And then if you're looking for a certain amount of runoff from the slabs to make sure we're getting the proper amount of drain, to make sure we're giving the plants enough water, we're going to collect that as well, analyze it, and then we're going to pump it through an EC and pH sensor. And as we pump it out, it's going to tell us exactly what our EC and pH is to make sure we're hitting the proper levels. As the plants are using the water, they're transpiring, those slab levels are going to get lower, and it's going to tell us, hey, we need to add some more water to the slab. We need to do another irrigation. And the benefit of having this is we're watering exactly when the plant needs it. We're giving it exact levels just by analyzing exactly what the plant's telling us. So we're able to make that connection there. We're able to take that data and operate more efficiently than just kind of guessing on a time base or anything like that. Next slide. We look at another example of some of the data that we collected. I mentioned our WSP21 weather station. We have an example of a graph here. So in this particular example, we have our outside temperature, wind speed, wind direction, rain. We're able to collect that data and display it on a graph. So at any time, from any device, you're able to bring that information up, see exactly what's happening. If you want to go back and see historical data as well, you can do that as well. And then see exactly what's happening to make sure you're setting your strategies accordingly. The next slide. So with all this data that we're talking about, we ask ourselves the question, how can we use this data to our advantage? The next two slides has some examples here. So we have an example of a cloudy day. So if we take a look at this weather graph, we see our outside temperature is kind of around 15, 20 degrees. But if you look particularly at the radiation, so it's the kind of the yellowish line, it's not very high. It kind of goes up and down throughout the day. So it kind of tells us that that's a cloudy day. And if we move on to the next slide, we have an example of a sunny day. So if we look at that radiation line again, kind of the lighter yellow line, it's a nice arch. And what that tells us is that it was a pretty sunny day, not a lot of clouds. Typically on a sunny day, we'll get an arch like that. Temperatures increased a little bit. And then if you look at the orange line, that's our radiation sum. So the crop is getting quite a bit more sun, which we're able to take that data and use that. So on the next slide, there's an example of our irrigation strategies. And we look at a smart watering strategy. The benefit of having a smart watering strategy is if we just take an example of a time clock irrigation. If you were to set a time clock irrigation based on that first example on the cloudy day, and you say, okay, yeah, it's a little bit cloudier, I don't need irrigations as frequently. We can set our rest time on an irrigation maybe to 3 hours. Maybe that's suitable on a day where we don't get a lot of sun. We have that same strategy the next day, but we get that nice curved line, that nice arched line that tells us it's a bright sunny day. Yeah, it's going to be a lot warmer inside the facility. The plants are going to need a lot more water. That time-based irrigation of a rest time of 3 hours isn't going to be suitable enough. So we're going to have to decrease that and make more frequent irrigations. In this example, we're still able to set a minimum and maximum rest time to make sure that we're getting enough dry out or whatever we're looking for on the plants. but we're also utilizing our radiation some. So we're saying, okay, water based on radiation instead of just a time clock. That makes sure as we're getting a lot of sun, the plants are getting the water that it needs because it is brighter, maybe it's cloudier, that irrigation is automatically going to adjust and it's going to give the plants exactly what they need based off of the climate that's going on. We can also take a look on the bottom line there. There's a moisture level limit. So if we're utilizing a moisture level sensor, a PIM, exactly what we were looking at before, we can actually look exactly what's in the slab as well. So we can say, okay, yeah, the slab's dried out a certain amount. We want to make sure we want to keep a certain amount of water content in there. We're making smart irrigation decisions, just kind of guessing and constantly changing the time. It's automatically just going to irrigate based off of what the needs are. We can move on to the next slide. Then we can take that information as well and utilize it with influences. So like I said, on a cloudy day, we might not need as much irrigation as we do on a sunny day. We can take that sunlight reading on the left-hand side example and use that as a quantity influence. So if we say, okay, if the light level reaches over 500 watts per meter squared, we want to start increasing our quantity that we're giving to the plant. So maybe on a sunnier day, we want to make our irrigation shots a little bit longer than they would be on a cloudy day. So it's automatically going to adjust based off of that. Same thing with the EC. If we want a higher EC content on a sunny day, we're able to utilize an EC influence as well. So again, we're looking at the sunlight. We're increasing the EC as we go. Automatically, it's doing that. You don't have to just make manual adjustments all day. It frees you up to do a lot of other things. Growers are super busy all the time. I'm sure Emilio can attest to that. Having it adjust automatically for you is a big benefit to you as growers. We can move on to the next slide. And then last but not least, we're utilizing this lots and lots nowadays, data integration, kind of like I talked about before. Integrating data into the cloud reduces errors and saves time. So we're getting all of that information sent directly to the appropriate parties, whether, again, it's a grower, consultant, a manager, all that information is coming in. Full visibility for actionable insights. So if you're getting certain trends in your data, you need to make adjustments to the strategy. You're able to do that just by the palm of your hands and your smartphone, laptop, whatever device you're on. And then Priva connects everything for smarter decisions and optimization too. Maybe you're looking at information from your energy center. You want to make some adjustments to save money on whatever kind of gas you're using, whatever kind of water you're using. You're able to see that information. And then again, just like Thomas is going to talk about, seamless third-party integration. So we work with a lot of partners like Source, a lot of trusted partners, and then they're able to take that information directly from our system, integrate the data in, and then make recommendations and actions based off of that data that they're receiving. And that's it from me. Again, thanks very much for having me, and looking forward to the other presenters.
Yeah, thanks very much, Chris. And don't go anywhere yet, because I'm sure we're going to have lots of questions for you. So
sounds good.
Thank you very much. And I guess this leads us in nicely. So what we've seen here is there's a lot of settings. There's a lot of things that can be done within the Priva system. But Thomas, what can your system offer on top of this? Oh, you're on mute. Nope, we still can't hear you. All right, I apologize. We're having some technical difficulties here. Oh, and Thomas has hopped off. All right, I apologize for the technical difficulties here, but here we go. Thomas is back.
Should you be? Are you hearing me now?
Ah, there we go. Perfect.
I apologize. It's always working for a technology company, but not able to set up your own mic. So that's, of course, not a very good start today. But thanks for bearing with me, and also thanks for of course, people that joining us here. Let me connect a little bit what we have heard from Chris about, of course, how climate computers have evolved from relatively simple control systems with a limited number of actuators to incredibly involved and complex systems that can do a lot. And of course, high-tech greenhouse these days, there's so much that you can achieve with it. But that also, of course, brings some challenges. And I'll talk about how systems like the system that Source is building can complement the technology that we have today to get more out of what you have today. I don't have as many beautiful slides as Chris has, so I'll keep it more as a little bit of a story. But bear with me there. Let me quickly touch upon what is our mission and what we're trying to achieve as an AI company like Source. So our mission is to build the #1 AI co-pilot for fruit and vegetable growers. And what I want to highlight here is that we are a co-pilot. So I don't see right now in the market, nor in the foreseeable future, that AI is going to take over and run greenhouses autonomously. I don't see that happening. Growers, they are still a driver. They have the hands on the steering wheel. But AI systems, in concert with the climate computers and other systems, can support in this decision making and can help automate certain decisions with the oversight from the grower and with the strategic direction from the grower. Next slide, please. And the reason why this is important is because of the following. So growing is a skill which is very hard to master. And I mean, I obviously don't master anything of it. So I'm the least person here to say something, but I think probably many growers can attest it. It is very hard to get to the level like people like Emilio. But then also, even if you're at that level, just doing it correct and well 24/7 with continuous new varieties, different climate patterns, continuously evolving technology, it's not easy. It's not easy, and it really requires you to be on the top of your game every second of the day. I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's fair for growers. I wish Emilio also can just lay back on Saturday and Sunday and not have to worry about his irrigation. Or maybe you do, Emilio, and you have your settings set up so well that you don't have to worry about it. But I definitely hear from a lot of growers that it's a very, very, very involved craft. It's a very involved profession, right? And that ultimately also inhibits the scalability of this industry. Because if Emilio, and I'm sorry, I'm singling you out here, Emilio, but if Emilio has to check on all his irrigation every day, every minute of the day, across all his greenhouses, there's only 24 hours in a day. So our goal is to enable growers to improve that scalability. And why is it important? If you want to go to the next slide, if you make a mistake in the greenhouse, it costs something. If you make a mistake with your irrigation, with your climate, with your lights, it might lead to yield loss. You might have excess costs which were not necessary. For example, now with lighting, of course, it's the electricity price which have gone up so much. Making the wrong assessment there is very, very costly. And also making the wrong forecast or being off in your forecast for what you're going to pick in, let's say, 4 or 5 weeks from now, might lead to you or the marketer realizing much lower prices than they could have if they had a more accurate forecast. And I mean, it's very difficult to do all things right all the time. And even when you're the most experienced growers, let alone if you are new to this profession and you're kind of building up. And it's also not becoming easier because the systems become more and more advanced and more complex, and there's more and more data being gathered. So the goal is that with all that data that's being gathered by the likes of a Priva, I think Priva already made a great step by bringing that data together in Priva 1, having that central location. I think that's a crucial first step that without putting that in place, it's very difficult to put any automation or leverage any new technology in the first place. But our ultimate goal is then to utilize that data and see, okay, can we help growers to make certain decisions better? Can we automate certain decisions? And essentially allowing the grower to really spend time on the things where they can provide the very most value, as opposed to the repetitive tasks where the value that they can add is limited, but it still costs them a lot of time. And that's essentially, if you want to go to the next slide, that is what Source has been doing over the past 5 years. We've been building different AI solutions that leverages the current systems in the greenhouse, the current data that's being collected, but then using AI models. And it's not a ChatGPT. Let's be very clear about that. It's not a text model that you ask it a question and you're going to say something to me. No, it's really mathematical models that, based on a lot of data and based on plant biology, can then predict how the plant is going to behave in the future. And if you know how the plant is going to behave in the future, then you can adjust your climate strategy, your irrigation strategy. You can tweak your forecasts to ensure that you're always doing what's optimal and that you ultimately prevent errors from being made. And what we see in Canada, and I mentioned earlier, we entered this market about 2 years ago, and we're seeing now the growers that have been working with us for that period of time, that they are able to achieve up to 50,000 Canadian extra in 50,000 Canadian in extra revenue per hectare. I'll quickly go over, if you want to skip ahead 2 slides, I'm not going to talk too much about our company itself. I think people can look this up on the internet. So if you want to go one further, please. Let me quickly touch upon how we look at this. So I think Chris really hit a very important note by mentioning you need a big data foundation. You need to have all that data together. There's a lot of different partners that can leverage that data well. You think consultants, think management, maybe peers that you as a grower are working with. So we really underwrite that kind of vision on where we need to head. We ourselves also have also bring together a lot of data because we need it for our AI solutions to make predictions. We leverage some of the data that Priva collects. We leverage some other systems, and we have our own crop registration application, because you need to have all the different data domains together. Then we expose that data, but ultimately where the real value is that we can provide is in the prediction. And this is where I truly believe that we are moving towards, and what can really make growers more effective, more successful, and more scalable. It's by knowing better what's coming ahead and making sure that you can anticipate in time to prevent errors that otherwise would have been made. And we have different solutions. And again, I won't go in a lot of detail because I could probably talk for a few hours about those. But some are more on the forecasting side. So forecasting your yield to ensure that you better know what's coming ahead of you 4 weeks and beyond. Finding the optimal growing strategy and continuously refining that to make sure that you get the maximum yield out of your crop. And autonomously operating your greenhouse. And again, not fully autonomously. The grower sets the strategy. The grower keeps the hands on the steering wheel. But in close collaboration with the climate computer, actually continuously tweaking the set points to make sure that you're always achieving what you're trying to achieve. Similarly to what Chris mentioned about the PIM. So this is really where we see it going. And again, in the coming decades, I really see growers being able, across several greenhouses, they have a control center. Some things are being done more in an automated fashion. Some parts are where the grower is saying, okay, but here's where I keep my hands on the steering wheel. And the grower is the one that sets the strategy, but more and more computers can take on little tasks, little decisions, and help the grower to be more scalable. That's it on the Source end.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Thomas. Really appreciate it. That was a great way to pull it together. So last but not least, we have Emilio, and Emilio is going to be providing some grower insights. Emilio, you have Priva and you use Source on your farm, correct?
Yeah, we use Priva and Source, but I'll take it from there, Dave. Thank you.
Thank you.
So yeah, with all these slides and everything, it really comes to a greenhouse structure and a greenhouse design. So kind of when you set up a greenhouse or, operate a greenhouse, it starts from the beginning and a proper design. So a proper design is how much light the greenhouse allows in, how you're going to put the CO2, what ppms you're going to keep CO2 at, what delta T's or temperature you're going to keep in the greenhouse, and ultimately, how are you going to make this box produce the vegetable, lettuce, tomato, strawberry, or whatever. So it starts from there, and then it goes to Priva, how Chris talked about how they're kind of taking all the climate data, labor system data, and they're really integrating it all together. So with that point, the first one is the climate data. So climate data, it's evolving. Each varieties, plants, tomatoes, peppers, they all require kind of different variations of temperatures. So that's kind of like, the first forefront of growing, make sure the temperature is correct, easy enough. Then you're going into the water management. So water management, the crop needs water. You can deep dive into it all, but it needs water and some nutrients. So you kind of take the climate, the water, and you amalgamate kind of all that data, and then you kind of, push it into an AI model. And so we worked with Source right now, and we've kind of pushed, that data into AI models to, see the potential or wasted energy of getting higher kg per meter squared or whatever. So, from the beginning, make sure your greenhouse design is properly designed, create a box and really, make sure it's optimum for what you want to grow. And then get your climate systems in there, water, irrigation, make sure that's perfect. Now the third step is going to AI models. So I've used 3 different kind of AI models in my greenhouse. I've used Plant Balance, I use Source, and I use Fermata. So specifically talk about Source. And with that one, we take, light data, we take the temperature data from Priva, we take sometimes our packing data, and we send that information out to Source, and Source gives us back, say, hey, we will, based off these circumstances and past history and, other large data models, these are kind of where we think, how many tomatoes you'll pick. So that's great. And that's really good for market aspects and everything. But there's other integrations that we use at Ridge Farms for that. So for example, if 1 week we're going to pick a 2.2 kg, square meter pick of tomatoes, good, everything's standard. We have, X amount of labor hours in the greenhouse. But, Source comes and says, hey, we're going to pick 3 kg this week. Well, obviously the marketing aspect needs to know, but our labor planning needs to know, because we're going to have to, have more hours that week or, get the job done to make sure the tomatoes are harvested, in a good time. So Source is a great model that we use. We also use a model called Fermata. Fermata kind of, they're stationary cameras in the greenhouse. They take pictures of little white flies or little bugs in the greenhouse. So any harmful biologicals. So we can kind of pinpoint a spot where it's going to start from. We see that spot and we're going to go with spot spray and go from there. So that's kind of how, Ridge Farms takes, a box, put stuff in it, design it, to spec for a proper greenhouse tomato, incorporates AI with all the models with it. I think hopefully, Dave, that helps drive to what we've talked about here today.
Yeah, exactly. No, it was great. Thank you so much. It really ties everything together. So yeah, from a presentation standpoint, I think that we've pretty much covered everything: controls, the AI, the grower aspect. Yeah, what we'd like to do is just open up Q&A. The 3 fine gentlemen that we have here on today's call are more than happy to answer any of the questions that anybody has.
There is a question in the chat. Is there a way to set up these systems so in a localized network or Docker so that data doesn't need to go through a centralized cloud infrastructure? That's possible.
Yeah, as far as Priva goes, we have a couple other ways of accessing our information other than cloud-based API. We do have our reporting, which is a handful of pre-populated reports that can be exported week to week, month to month, quarter, kind of yearly. And then also we have our manual export of data via our 5-minute export values. Basically what that is that you select a group of information that you want to export, and then that's automatically exported to a CSV file placed anywhere on a network drive or a local drive on a computer, and then you're able to take that information and do whatever you want with it. And I kind of can hand it over to Thomas, and maybe you have something to add there.
Yeah, from our end, so our models do run in the cloud, and yeah. So first of all, we haven't been in a situation where growers wanted to run it locally, the same models. Our full application is also in the cloud. So in our situation, we haven't really come across that, and hence have not really focused on that use case.
I think with that too, just like you hit it, Chris, just get your APIs. I think we have 4 different APIs now. So take all the models from your partners and kind of, build it into Power BI or some type of cloud system on yourself.
Yeah, and the manual exporting is a little bit labor intensive. And the API, I understand with your data information and data security, everything's secure. But yeah, it's definitely labor intensive to export it manually. And the API is great. It just does it all kind of as you need that data. So it's a lot easier to do it that way.
Okay. Another question, how do the various AI models handle variability between cultivars, seasons, and growth stages?
Yeah, I can kick that one off. I think this is a great question. I think specifically on the cultivar side, with the higher velocity of new cultivars in the industry, that definitely brings some challenges. And what we specifically do is that our models, we have one foundational model, if you will, which really captures kind of the plant biology of tomato plants, of cucumber plants, of pepper plants. But then on top of that, we have cultivar-specific models. And we are training those cultivar-specific models on plant phenotype data that we get from the seed breeders, because the seed breeders actually use our crop registration application in their pre-commercial greenhouses. And this allows us to build models about these cultivars prior to them actually being available to growers. So by the time the growers start using these cultivars, or growing these cultivars and using our solutions in parallel, the models already have been trained. I think that is one of the design decisions which, especially in retrospect, we are very thankful for, because with the much higher velocity of new cultivars, and also new cultivars, for example, the resistant ones, we see that they just manifest in a much different way than maybe predecessors did. So this cultivar-specific model setup is really what we see as a prerequisite to make sure that AI models can function well.
Okay. Another question, what decisions does the AI make autonomously versus recommend to operators?
Emily, do you want to chime in here?
Yeah. So great one is we're implementing Source.ag with irrigation models. So for an example, really to break it down is you have a 200-watt setting. You want to irrigate every 20 minutes. You have your joules, different variations in your strategy. So, a typical setting on Priva would be, A, B, C, and it would sit within a bandwidth, and it would irrigate roughly 12 to 15 minutes, depending on probably in the summer. Where Source is more of a kind of like, think of it as a wave where it's going to say, hey, this is where we're going to irrigate now. And then it kind of does check boxes more defined. So again, we're going to irrigate, we're going to irrigate, we're going to irrigate. We're kind of, maybe a basic model is just we're going to irrigate, we're going to irrigate, and we're going to irrigate. To answer that one specifically.
Okay. Another question, any real-time analytics from Priva/Source integrated from all systems?
I can speak to it from the Priva side. Yeah, one thing we're really excited is that within the next couple of months, we're rolling out our Priva One platform. And basically what that's going to do is it's going to combine all of our offerings, cloud-based, control-based, into one platform, making it Priva One. And specifically in there, we have an app called Crop Performance. And that's going to enable you as the grower to set up some dashboards with some real-time analytics, looking at temperature, humidity, light trends. And that's going to be all displayed on a user-friendly dashboard, easy to configure. And that kind of gives you a look at what's happening within the crop. And basically what we're doing is kind of what we're preaching. Everything's integrated. We're utilizing that data to give you the tools to say, okay, we need to make adjustments here. Everything's going well. We need to make some changes here. It kind of gives you more insight as the grower.
All right. Did I ask this one? How does the AI perform as operations scale across multiple zones or facilities?
I think that's a great question. I think that's also one of the real benefits that AI can add is that once, let me take the example here of Emilio, right? And I know Emilio is building more, and Emilio, I'm not sure where your ambition stops, but once you ever have, if you have even more greenhouses, Emilio probably has a vision on how he wants, for example, to do his irrigation. But if he would have to do that in 10 different greenhouses continuously, there's not enough time to manage that very closely. With a system like Source or with these type of solutions, you can have your irrigation strategy almost digitized in an AI system, and you are sure that across all these different greenhouses, the same irrigation strategy is executed, but you make sure that the AI, almost as a growing assistant that is kind of awake 24/7, make sure that that irrigation strategy is executed in the right way. So I actually think it's an enabler of scalability. It allows growers to scale much faster while maintaining that same level of operational excellence.
Okay. The question for Emilio: what would you change, if anything, about the systems you're using at Mastronardi?
I'm sorry, could you ask that question again?
Sure. What would you change, if anything, about the systems you're currently using?
Yeah, I would probably get more into, obviously when you approach builders or anything like that, you design your specs, but really look at, and we did look at the models of the Delta Ts, but make sure you can really output high CO2 volumes, high temperature volumes. In terms of change, for example, really look into when you put your gutter spacing between, so if you put a gutter 1 and gutter 2, let's say they're 4 or 5 feet apart from each other, really look at that. And maybe you want to optimize for 3.8 feet to allow optimum light into the crop, which obviously your labor isn't going to affect by hitting the crop, but just get really defined into your specs and just try to get optimum light per meter squared. So then when you go into these systems, it just becomes a way better tool. So higher light, higher kgs, better use of your AI tools incorporated.
Okay. I know this question was aimed at Emilio, so I apologize for chiming in here, but I think if there's one thing that I've kind of learned over the past 4 years where in hindsight, I see growers maybe regretting their earlier decision is ensuring that they have the right sensors in place, that they are collecting the good data, and that they make sure that their systems are interconnected. It's really tied to what Chris has been saying, right? And I think Chris talked a lot about sensors and bringing that together. If you don't have that data foundation in place, you cannot benefit or leverage any of these more advanced technologies. So not having the accurate data, not having all your data come together in a single place, it really limits you in the long run. So I personally...
Proper IT infrastructure as well. and more sensors for sure.
We do have a question about, given the sophistication in AI-based data breaches globally, should there be a loss and/or data compromise, who assumes the liability and manages compensation for that breach?
I can sort of answer this one. It kind of falls outside of my expertise as a system analyst, but our cloud infrastructure is very secure, and it's something that we've looked into quite a bit. Again, as far as the other kind of second part of the question falls outside of my expertise a little bit. So
I asked the same question to Priva, and I think you guys are partnered with Microsoft, right?
Yeah. So it's kind of one of the most used cloud infrastructures in the world, and we're pretty confident in the secureness of it, and it shouldn't be a worry.
Okay. All right, those are the end of our questions. The email addresses that for all the presenters except for Emilio are on the slide. So if anybody has any follow-up questions, please feel free to contact us. In general inquiries, just go to the info email box. I get that, and I would distribute it to wherever it needs to be. Thanks very much to our panel. Much appreciated. I really appreciate your time this afternoon, and some great information that we heard. And I'm sure there'll be some follow-up questions. But thanks very much, everybody.
Sounds great. Thank
you, everyone.